Hey YouTube! Yeah, so I've had this now for, what, a week or something like that. My Carlton High Gain Series 2 amplifier. So the last video was when I went and got it. So this one is kind of like more, hopefully people who kind of know what it is, but nice if it actually knew someone who made it. So apparently Carlton started off in Fife and they moved to Coatbridge, which Fife's over there and Coatbridge is over there but much closer, making these amps. All I could really find out, I found one Glasgow Herald article from 91 or 92, something like that, and apparently the guy couldn't afford an amp so he made him his own, and he never did any advertising and just basically sold them on the sound, which sounds like a great idea. So this is, obviously I bought this, look at the cabinet, it's in like a solid ash cabinet, maybe with a basket weave front. I thought it kind of reminded me of the old 70s Mesa Boogies, although the 70s Mesa Boogies tend to look a bit more expensive than this one does. The guy told me, it said it was a tube amp, and it's not. It's solid state all the way. But I'm kind of liking that. To be honest, one of the things I'm really liking is the fact it's got IOL from Arthur, the film. So instant on. Well, it's instant on lighting, so this is an IOA, so it's an instant on amp, so you basically hit the button and it's on. It's like, yeah! And you can turn it off and turn it on, rather than having to, you turn it on, waiting for the valves to heat up and all that lark. I'm obviously I'm a bit of a tube snob, have been for years, so it's nice just trying other things. Yeah, so this is, I think it's 100 watt, it's got a massive, it weighs an absolute ton, weighs 25 kilograms this amp. And there are other ones, I've been looking them up online. There's not very many photos that come up about them and not any videos or anything like that, but they did these solid state amps, and you could get it with it was quite a significant upcharge to get it in a wooden cabinet with a basket front on it. But someone's one of the looking through old forums, from 10 years ago, just to find any reference to it, somebody paid an extra £250 for the cover to get it in a nice wooden case with a basket weave front at some point. So how true that is, I don't know, but they are available, and to be honest, they don't look great. The ones that, the standard one, it's just like old Tolex, but I don't know, Marshall and stuff, this sort of Tolex is sort of nicer looking than what you used to get. If you ever looked at old PA speakers and stuff like that, just a sort of didn't look as good. This looks 100 times better than basically exactly the same amp in just the normal container. I don't know if it would weigh quite as much. I'm running it on the internal speaker just now. I have been using the one in below it though, because what I did notice is maybe something to do with the type of speaker or the fact it's in this solid wood cabinet. It's really focused, as in the sound just kind of comes out. Like if I'm standing here, I was like, oh, it doesn't sound as good, but when I do that, it's like, oh wow, it sounds amazing, and it doesn't sound good here, so it's kind of like the sound must come out it like this, like a pure, but like quite a narrow field on it. I'm using that just now, but I've been using this, my 3x12, which is kind of designed to stop that, so like this speaker points this way, that one points that way, and that one points up the way, which is fantastic if you ever take an amp like this into the studio, because it means you don't have to stand in front of your amp, or you can stand right in front of it here, if you're playing a gig and you've got it there, and that speaker's pointing up at you so you can hear it. It's like, yeah, what a great idea, but never took off. Actually, someone's selling this is on a buy. Someone's actually selling the amp head that goes with that cabinet on Facebook Marketplace. I've never seen one before. So it's a really ugly looking thing, but it's all valves. Got a lot of foot switches and stuff on it. Quite a complicated amp, because Trace Elliot, they make bass amps, but I don't know if you don't really see any Trace Elliot guitar amps, apart from that one and the head that's on. I'm not buying any more amps. I shouldn't even have really bought this one, but I just thought, look at it, a fantastic 1x12 cabinet. But the actual amp I'm really liking. So I don't know if you can probably can't read it there. We've got a master volume, clean volume, an EQ, bass, middle, treble for all, just for both channels. So you get your clean volume, your master volume, and you've got 4 switches on the front. Right, so lead, and then red for the lead channel, and then you've got a presence which turns on this presence knob, a preamp 2 which is these two knobs, and a gain boost which is just like a, it's just far too loud, really. So I've not fully understood how the drive and the gain work on preamp 2, which is volume. So I'd rather it was volume and gain, and then I would know which, you put the gain up full and the volume down really low to get the most distortion. Not really fully worked that out yet. But I did. I built this, which I'm quite pleased with. Just hold it there, can't I? That's it, right there. So we've got this is an old Marshall foot switch enclosure for some sort of digital amp. It was all bits missing, so I just put in these are just momentary switches and a bit of electroset on it to make it. And on the back of the amp, there's a 5-pin MIDI type plug, like a MIDI type plug, which I actually bought this thinking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plug, stick it in the back, and then I'll wire onto it, and then I'm going to, because these are like wee push button, like they're momentary switches, I figured I bet you inside this, touching the cables together changes the channels. So I bought this, and then I realised, oh no, I've got to buy a 5-core cable. And I was like, because it's obviously you've got to have 5 wires coming out it, and I was like thinking about making it out of. And then I thought, hold on, that looks awful like a MIDI connection, so I just got an old MIDI lead, and I just cut the end off it. So I've got like the MIDI lead plugs into the back of the amp, and then I had the 5 wires, or the other end of the MIDI lead here, and I just basically had plugged it into the amp, and I just joined the terminals to, the 5 pins together to see what would happen, and basically that was it. You just had to, you'd like the one's a return, and the other 4 are for the 4 buttons. Easy. Well, you can see that. See it there. It's like that's turning the wee red light from green to red. I don't know if that's showing up. And then you get that's the presence and the preamp and the gain boost. So I've got maximum foot control. So clean. Last time I did this, watch my volumes. It didn't come out as clean because I was just overloading everything, because it's 100 watts. It's loud as heck. Really is. I mean, the clean volume's at 3 and the master volume's at 3, but this thing goes super loud. Well, it's also got reverb. It's got an Acutonics made in America reverb tank in the back. It's basically just got 2 knobs like these, apart from they're on the back, and they're quite well ordered. So you can't turn the reverb on and off. Well, you can, but it's a knob as opposed to a switch. But it's like the one that's on this side is the clean, and the one on that side is the gain channel one. So it's got there's a clean channel and a gain channel, and then the gain channel's got when you're in the gain channel, you get the option of the presence, turning the presence switch on and off, the preamp 2, which I'd imagine just like another gain stage on top of that, and then the boost thing, which just seems to be like a 10 decibel boost or something. So I'm using my FGN Telecaster. These are fantastic guitars. This guitar really likes this amp. So I tried this last night in a live. I was going to say steam, but I was sober and really, really hungry. So I'm sorry that last night was a bit of a failure as a live stream. I don't think it was just because I didn't have the bucket. It was more the fact that I'd ordered. I complained about this during the whole stream, but I'd ordered a kebab at half 6, thinking, well, I should get it, and it didn't arrive till 5 to 8, so or 10 to 8, so I had 5 minutes of wolfing down the kebab, and then I hit record, and then I was, so, pitch pickup, clean, EQs at 5.5, and a wee bit more bass, just... I'm actually running through my pedal board just now, so I just use it naturally. I'll just use it naturally. I'll go straight from the guitar into the amp, just to, so you know I'm not cheating. Okay, it's made it much louder. It's overloading the amp. Okay, so I'll go back through this. I think it's just the loop pedal is reducing the volume a little bit. I've got it set a bit low, so it should now be not quite as loud as that. It's kind of tamed it a little bit. Neck pickup. Obviously the reverb's on. And my pal Scott hated you a little bit for making me use reverb because I never used to use it, but now I'm kind of used to it being there. It's very difficult to play without it. Middle position. Using my super pedal, I'm going to put it into the gain channel, which I've got set just for a little bit more gain. Obviously got the reverb on in the gain channel as well. So the presence. That actually does quite a lot. Never seen that function. Off. It's obviously boosting it beyond mic preamp 2 for a bit more distortion. The presence and the gain and the preamp buttons only work when you're on the lead channel, the red light on the front. Presence. So back to just gain on, and then the boost. I mean, all the sounds I think are pretty good. Turn the reverb off on that channel there. Boost might actually be really good for taking a solo. It's like an emergency. Oh shit, you can't hear me in this solo. I'm loud enough. There's also, we can put preamp 2 on as well. so, I mean, to be honest, winner. Being a tube snob, I think, was more just down to the fact that I think a lot of your transistor, your solid state amps were basically an awful lot cheaper than tube ones. So that was the kind of, you know, when you're buying, obviously the same, all of us of my generation, you grew up with like your 10 watt, 20 watt, 30 watt tranny amps, you know, wee PVs or Laneys or Marshalls or whatever. And it didn't sound that fantastic. And you get a tube amp, it's like, oh, a tube amp sounds amazing. But remember, the tube amp probably cost 10 times as much as the solid state one. So, you know, there's a point where it's kind of being a really well built amp is probably better than being a badly built tube amp. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like they are different. I mean, I've got no problem using this as my main amp just now, and it's you know, barely on, sitting at the volume it's at just now because it's 100 watt. The thing's loud as heck. So much headroom, so clean. What I have noticed is it responds differently to the pedals I've been using before as well, so I'm having to go through some of my older pedals and working out what it is. They weren't working before with the amp I was using before was my wee Laney VC15, which is kind of similar sounding to my Softtech 60 watt, which is my amp. So I kind of chose the Laney because it sounds kind of similar, but they kind of react differently because it's all tubes. So when you push the gain, it kind of distorts and compresses and stuff, whereas this doesn't really do that. Not in the same way anyway. Obviously there's still some compression, some distortion from the speaker and stuff, but I mean that's like a 150 watt speaker with like a heat sink thing on the back. I mean the speaker must weigh, you wouldn't want to carry it basically. So it seems to say glassy clean. But I kind of don't want to say, you know, it's a great pedal platform. That's normally what you say about like an amp that's it's got a good clean channel, but the distortion's all shit. This one, I rate the distortion as being totally usable and great. I don't know if I'd really call that distortion, more dirt, a wee bit dirtiness to it. Kind of sounds a wee bit like something like my wee Laney when you were basically using a more powerful guitar, hitting the strings hard, kind of had this sort of sound. Quite like that, maybe. I'm going to put that into a loop actually, what the drum's doing today. So, as I was saying there, some of the other pedals I've got, the pedal I've got here, which is connected down there, it's called a Washburn Stack-in-a-Box pedal, which I kind of thought was a bit like a tube screamer, but I don't think it is. What it was meant to do is make your solid state amp sound like a tube Marshall stack, hence Stack-in-a-Box. So I'm now actually using it, rather than using it into a tube amp, I'm using it for what it's meant to be. It's like, I've got other pedals I've got to try as well, the ones that maybe weren't working so well before. I mean the rat pedal on this amp, it seems very distorted. And maybe not particularly wonderful, but this one, so this is the Stack-in-a-Box. It's like, that's what it's for. What key was in there? What I might do is tune that down to me, turn the volume down a bit, and just play it in a normal key, an E. That's more like it. And I'll be able to play properly. Wow, that's a... I wasn't going well there. I'm really liking that Washburn stacking a box pedal with this amp. I'm glad I didn't sell it. I tried to sell it before on eBay, going back a couple of years. I think I put it in at starting bid, 20 quid, and nobody bid on it. And then somebody I can't believe I missed this. I was like, would you sell it to me for 20 quid? After the auction had ended, and it was like, I'm just going to keep it. That was like 5 years ago, something like that. And then now it's up here, winner! Does sound different from me. Put the reverb back on again. And it just seems to absolutely love this guitar. Maybe it's just because what I think a telly should sound like is what this is doing, you know. It's exactly what I want a telly to sound like. Actually, something I noticed about this guitar just this morning, which I don't remember ever having noticed before. It's see on the old original Fender pickups and also on very expensive pickups, instead of wrapping the bobbin of the coil with tape, they use tone string. This pickup is wrapped in tone string, which obviously that string just gives it that original telly tone, rather than it just being tape like on what a modern guitar would have. So these are just the stock pickups. Oh, I assume they're the stock pickups. The guy, when I bought it second hand, but I mean, the guy didn't say he changed anything, so I'm sure he would have advertised if they were. Yeah, it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? So I'm looking forward to taking this into the studio and see what it does at what it was designed to do, which is run. I mean, the guy I bought it off, other guys, yeah, it's just a wee practice amp, and it's like, well, let's be honest, is it? Fuck, that's not a practice amp. I think maybe partly one of the reasons it works so well at quieter volumes is because it's a solid state, though. I think if it was a valve one, if you had a 100-watt valve amp sitting there and you're playing at this sort of volume, it's barely on. You know, the valves are kind of like, oh, come on. I use my favourite analogy, which is like, you know, if you've got like a driving the Fiat Panda through the Asda car park, it's fine. You've got like a Ferrari F40. Not really, it wants to be on a racetrack doing 200 mile an hour. It doesn't really want to be doing 3-point turns and stuff like that. You know, it's just right thing for the right job. It probably doesn't do. It probably isn't very responsive between 0 and 5 miles an hour sort of thing. It's like, so this is running at nothing like its capacity, but it works really well. And I think because it's such a big speaker, it weighs a flipping ton and it's in the cabinet, it really projects and sounds fantastic on its own. I think the internal speaker actually sounds better than the 3x12. It's just that thing I was saying about the have to stand over here to get far enough away or be sitting down with it blasting in my head to get the full sound, because it's really directional. So anyone knows anything, if you've got this far, well done, but anyone knows anything about Carlton amps more than my pal Scott says he remembers seeing them. After the solid state ones like this, I think it's after this is a high gain series 2, there's probably a high gain series 1. I bought it as a 65 watt, but it's on the back it's an HGS100. It's got 150 watt speaker, so I'm thinking it's probably 100 watt. It's very nice on the inside though. The only thing that was really wrong with it was it had a couple of scratchy pots, which I've almost fixed. One of them's still a bit noisy. There's a wee bit of noise on the master volume. Not unbearably so. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use... First time I tried squishing it with contact cleaner, took it to bits, squished it with contact cleaner, it sort of made a wee difference, and I took it to bits again when I was going to try and use more contact cleaner. I put quite a lot in, and it almost fixed it, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to empty a fucking whole can in the bastard and just like... And I think that will probably sort it. I was looking at, you know, maybe changing the pots and stuff, but if I can avoid doing that, I will. Also, I really like the knobs on this. I assume they're the original knobs. The other ones I've seen don't look like that. What was the other thing I was going to say about the Carlton? Yeah, so I think they went out of business early 90s, maybe mid 90s. I think that's maybe about 1990, so 89 to 92, somewhere in that region. And I think one of the problems with it was it's solid state. So people are like, oh, you've got to have a tube amp. I don't think it was really as important to have a tube amp up until, you know, the early 90s when vintage guitars started becoming a thing. Everyone wanted tube amps, so instead of making that, they made one called a Camel, which I've seen pictures of. They don't have good reviews, but who's to say? It's the old thing. It's like, you know, I can imagine a guitar like this getting a really bad review, and it's like, yeah, yes, I down-tuned to C and playing my Slayer cover band, and this Telecaster just doesn't sound, you know, like, well, it's not really meant for that. I bet it probably would sound actually pretty good if you down-tuned it, put it in a, but you know, it's like, or someone who's got like a, you know, like a down-tuned baritone guitar, and it's like, I can't play country on this at all, and it's like, oh. So you never really know. The Camel was apparently something to do with, it was called the Camel because it's got humps. But it's one of those things, I think, kind of like the way this is wired out. See the presence on a switch? It's there for a reason. And also the preamp gain, it's somebody's thought about this. It's not like a pure, we'll just stick bits on it, see what happens. It's there's a reason why it's got that presence on a switch. Can you kind of say muddy maybe? And less so, and I've hardly got the presence dial on at all. But weird more on. So you'd maybe want that, maybe something to do with if you're running the clean channel, and then you go over to the drive channel. It's like, oh, you might want to be adding some presence in there as a wee option. Seems very clever. So to be honest, I'm actually, if anyone's got one of those Camel ones, I'm quite interested in that. Sounds good. One of the things that they were looking at, I saw pictures of an amp that there was a head version that looked the same as that. The thing is that also they've got the other amps, the Camel, the valve one. It's the same. I think they use the same front panel. I don't think the knobs all do exactly the same things, but it's got the same like 4 push buttons and the same power switch and stuff like that. But it's good. Obviously the front panel's the same, and the knobs maybe even do the same, but in the back it's something different. But they made a thing called a smooth tube, which I think could be quite a good idea, and I wonder why it hasn't taken off. Obviously it didn't take off, but basically what it was like on your valve or your tube amp, it's basically a solid state thing that acts like a valve that you just stick into the valve socket instead of a valve. So it's like you can still use the valve amp, but it's like you're not using valves anymore. It's just like, so it basically just looks like a valve with a PCB in it and chips and stuff, which seems like an awful good idea, especially as like a spare. If you're talking about having a couple of them as spare, if you're doing a wee tour or something like that and your valves go, it's a nightmare. Whereas these, you just stick it in and okay, not going to give you 100% valve sound probably, but it's going to work. And I think that, there's a lot of situations where it's like, what would you rather have? A solid state amp, or your amp working at solid state mode, or no amp for tonight's gig? And it's like, well, I'll have that. So I'm looking forward to take this into the studio and see what it does at volume, and to be honest, possibly even gigging with it. It's a heavy beast though, but it's relatively small. You don't need to fold the car seats down to take it and stuff like that. I don't think I would bother putting wheels on it because it'd be annoying, because it's obviously not big enough. I put wheels on that. What a difference that made. It's great, but because it's that high, you can push it. Whereas if you put wheels on that, you're going to be, you're going to end up kicking it along the ground because you can't walk when you're holding on to it. At least that's my thinking. I'm just really loving how it sounds though. Which, let's be honest, that's what's important. You can go in for, I don't really go in for it, a lot of people do. Like I've got all the buzzwords is like soft and fat and chewy and mid humps. I don't really know. I'm not good at using these words to describe what it is I'm hearing. But you just turn that on and it just sounds more expensive. It's kind of like my dad's old Celestion speakers, like for his hi-fi, they just sounded flipping great, and he couldn't really describe why. It's kind of like that. It's got a sort of hi-fi. It's like an expensive hi-fi sound, but well thought out. And let's be honest, it would be all I need is an amp. I don't need any other amps. I've got other ones for fun, but that would do me. One you can actually use in the house at a reasonable volume that sounds really good, or you could take it to gigs, and I'm assuming it'll sound really good. I mean, it goes so loud that it hurts your brain. So back in those days, 1990, maybe you didn't have house PAs everywhere, so maybe it would be for gigging, like a pro gigging amp. Plus, look at it, basket weave. I do quite fancy maybe having a little bit of I go at polishing the cabinet to make it a little bit fancier looking. Yeah, so that's kind of it. Whoever was built it, well done. I mean, look, inside it looks fantastic, and it's got the. I'll get really technical here. Like the caps, that I know what are caps because I know what they look like. It's like those the orange drop Sprag ones in it, so they are more expensive than the normal ones. They're not hugely more expensive, I'll be honest. Well, the normal one, like I only know this from guitars. Like if you're buying those caps, if you buy maybe one at a time, they're £2 or £3 each. But if you buy them in a packet of 10, for I don't know, they'll probably come in at about £1 or something like that. Whereas if you buy the really cheap ones, they're like a penny each. So yeah, it makes a difference. If you're trying to churn out a guitar for retailing for £100, yeah, you're not going to put the orange drop caps in. Whether there's any difference, I don't know. I don't know. And saying that, I changed a cap in that Vox bass amp I had because the one it was in it was an oil and something one, and it basically went on fire. It started sizzling like bacon. That plumes of smoke. I was just going to, I was like, right, well, this amp's going in the bin basically, and then it was like, no, hold on. It was just basically over the power socket, and it was like, alright, it was just a cap, and it's like I could still read on it what value it was, so I actually got lots of caps, and I just put one on it, and it did the job great. It was the same value. I think maybe one of the problems with that is I think at some point you couldn't get all the values in the oil ones or whatever, the paper, whatever, the orange droppy ones. And there's also chips in it as well. It seems to be mostly wee chips. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot in the amp, if you know what I mean. It's not like you're just, just like totally populated circuit boards. It seemed to be quite simple and made by hand as well. So I mean, kind of talking that as boutique. They've really sold it to me because it's made in Scotland. Unfortunately, basically the main negative point I think about this amp is some of the other ones I've seen, well, the one or two other ones on the back say designed by Sound blah 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 systems, made in Scotland. That one says made in Britain on it, and it's like, oh, I want it said made in Scotland. It's made in Scotland, but I'd rather it said Scotland and Britain. But hey, I suppose I've got to try and sell it. If you're trying to expand your horizons and try to sell them in London and stuff like that, it's probably made in Britain probably sells it better to more places. And maybe even international people will have heard of Britain. It's like, Scotland, where's that? Is that part of Ireland? I get that sometimes. Or it sounds a wee bit like was that like near Lapland? Yeah. I can't go over how nice it sounds. Actually, before I turn this off, I've been on for so long. I'm going to turn the reverb up to full because I mean the reverbs are at like 1 or 2. So I figured I'm just wondering how high it goes. I mean, we're talking just how useless is the reverb at this volume? Oh well, I suppose that's. I guess it's a nice sound, isn't it? So I mean, it is actual spring reverb tank in the back. One thing I did think was a bit odd. It's where are we now? So a 1 or 2 is quite nice. I've never seen a reverb tank sitting vertically. It's like the springs. I wonder if it makes any difference. Because normally you see it sitting on the bottom of your, in the bottom of the cabinet. And this one, it's actually down. It's nailed on its side. That was one of the things that maybe made me think that this cabinet wasn't the actual cabinet but a few folk have assured me that no, they did definitely come looking a bit like that. So I don't think somebody's made the cabinet anymore, or somebody's made it, but they've made it at the factory. But it seems to absolutely love the single coils. Maybe that's just because of the clean. I noticed that the Strat sounds phenomenal through it as well. Right, enough talking about this. I hope that's made up for the fact that this is pure long. If anyone knows anything about it, even if you work there, are you the guy that designed it? It'd be awesome to know a little bit more about it. I will be using it for the foreseeable future in all my videos anyway, I think. Not really hearing any. It's different to the Relay I've been using. I've been going through a few amps the last couple of months. The wee PV Royal 8 wasn't. It was just, I bought that just because I was curious about it, but then I got a Blackstar HT5. That's really nice as well. Wee valve amp, and I've got a PV 50 watt 2x12 1x12 thing valves, and it's lovely as well. But I totally don't need any of these things. They all sound slightly different. It's just one of those things you just kind of get used to, whatever it is you're playing, I think. It's like, I like lots of different types of guitar just because, I want to play a telly. The telly does what a telly does, and you can do other things on it, but sometimes it's nice just to have a telly. It's nice just to have a Strat, it's nice just to have an SG, and all these things. Just, it's a slightly different guitar, slightly different amp will just put you in a slightly different frame of mind, and you might not necessarily play exactly the same thing as you would. I mean, I might be playing different things through this amp than I would be through the Relay. I'm tringing a lot more because he seems to do it so well. That sounds like a record. Enough talking, 45 minutes of talking dribble. Rock on, some more normal videos during the week. Hopefully I'll get my car back. I'll do another. Someone actually said that my best video ever was the one where I was walking back from getting my car. So I guess when I'll do another video like that when I walk back to go and get it. Rock on, catch you later.